I'm going to introduce these three stories to you. We're going to go in chronological order. The first story is going to be set in 2099, right? And it's an allegory for the future of finance. So we're keeping with the themes of today. The second story is set in 2147, and it's a love story. Is it set in Varanasi? And it's set in Varanasi. And the third story is a story of a completely dystopian future set in 2300, 300 years from now. And obviously, it's in retail. So, without any further ado, I'd like to invite the first storytellers up. Sit back, close your eyes, don't think too much, just enjoy it.
We had a lot of fun doing this exercise last night. Let me introduce our team. We have Suresh from our team. We have Deepak. We have Rutvik and myself, Ritesh. Our story is titled Time is Money, and I hope you'll all enjoy it. We are not good actors, but we'll try. It's the year 2099. Mankind has colonized the solar system, which has made the human race immeasurably rich. Our neighboring planets seem to have an inexhaustible supply of material and energy, and we are now the masters of all of it. There is only one scarce resource left: time. As we enjoy our newfound wealth and prosperity, we are too painfully aware of the ticking of the clock. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Our protagonist, Samay, is just another young man who has wasted his youth. And at the very threshold of middle age, he finds himself running out of time. But help is at hand from the wizards of finance. All the brilliant minds of the 21st century have been finance professionals. Starting from the great e-commerce boom of 2015, they have ventured into the great unknown, armed only with their wits and their spreadsheets. By 2099, they have created a sophisticated financial system using time as a currency. You can buy and sell time. You can lend and borrow it, even hold it in the bank for capital appreciation. The biggest corporation in the universe is the Times Bank, where Samay soon finds himself hoping to buy some time.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Samay.
Thank you.
We have been expecting you.
Thank you.
I am Yama, your client relationship manager. I understand you're still a slave to time?
Oh, yeah. There's no time. There's no time.
Let's see what we can do for you. Of course, we can help you with an over-the-counter time purchase.
Oh, yeah?
There are plenty of poor fools who will gladly exchange 15 years of their miserable lives for 15 minutes of happiness.
Wow. Wow.
But if you're looking for something more substantial, can I suggest time futures?
Absolutely. Yeah.
As you're aware, we now breed human beings for the express purpose of harvesting their time. You can buy a share in such a time farm, a timeshare, if you will. And of course, we will route all your investments through Mars for tax reasons.
Thank you. Perfect.
As you know, we have a favorable tax treaty with Mars.
Perfect. That sounds good. Where do I sign?
Well, hear me out.
Okay.
If you're looking for something off the books, as it were, we can help create group suffering. So you can acquire time in bulk, at discounted rates, of course. You have no idea how cheaply a bereaved family will sell its time. So what shall it be?
Time.
Samay turns out to be a wise and prolific investor. He is early the value of hoarding time. Those who can afford it can live forever. He soon becomes part of the temporal elite, the 0.25% of the population that own all the time in the world. He can now spare enough time for intergalactic travel. Those long years in the spaceship are spent perusing other people's memories. There's a slew of startups offering memories on demand. Using quantum search, they scan the memories of 50 billion people and offer you just the right one you need at the time. He has just spent 2 weeks in the Himalayas, feeling the snow crunch under his feet. In the afternoon, he runs into a mother's kitchen, inhaling the flavors he had all but forgotten. It's wonderful to be able to live all the memories he had longed for, but never had the time for. Samay's meteoric success continues unabated. In this new universe, time buys time. He can afford to wait indefinitely for the prices to fall, and then he buys and buys and buys, till one day,
मैं समय हूँ. I have bought all the time in the universe. I have infinite time with me. I can live longer than anybody out there. I have, in fact, lived the memories of thousands and thousands of people for centuries now. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. And I've bought it all. I have it all with me now. Isn't it lovely? And beautiful. But wait. I have now lived longer than everybody else. That means I'm alone. I'm the only person left in this universe. What time shall I trade? What memory shall I trade? I think I've consumed it all. No more new memories to be bought. No more memories to be shared with anyone. I'm lonely. Time is infinite, but I'm alone. There's only one thing left to do, and that is go with everybody whose memories I've shared or lived with, and that is
Why such a bleak ending? Is that the projection for the future of the financial sector?
Isn't that the present of the financial sector?
Okay.
You know,
Touché.
the absolute worst part of all of this is you have two VCs on stage answering the question about the future of finance.
And how many VCs were in your team? The whole team
we
was...
had 3 out of 5 of us were VCs, right? So no wonder.
So I mean, was this useful? I know it was fun, but was there anything useful that came out of this? Can you see an application for this with any of the companies that you invest in? And I mean, not particularly going this far in the story, but...
No, there are plenty of companies that are committing suicide as we speak. But I think we started off as purely having fun, and we went a little wild. But at some point we realized that the story we were telling about time was really a story about money. As we see the world today. So I think our story was really about accumulation leading to dystopia in the end.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Could
you.
Team Yama stand up? Who is on your team? So let's move to something a little more uplifting. Let's move to love.
Hi everyone, I'm here to tell you the story of 2147, a love story. And like all love stories, this is one of the ilk of Leila and Majnu and Romeo and Juliet, only it's set in 2147. And it's been brought together by a bunch of us who picked healthcare and love story, and you could tell at the end, so we didn't have any VCs in our group. we had a bunch of social entrepreneurs, it turned out, all of us in some way or another. So there was Madan Padaki, there was Richa, there was Ritesh, and there was Krishna. And between us, we had a bunch of fun putting together the story, which actually, you'll probably see as a book someday. So we're quite happy with it. So here we start. So it starts with this beautiful Bengali-looking girl called Aarti in the Isle of Varanasi, hair like Zeena's, sort of big eyes, loves to dance. She's an AI scientist. She's probably the brightest AI scientist on the planet. And she's decided to solve the problem of healthcare. She's decided that no matter what happens, no matter how better the drugs get, how better the diagnosis get, everything that happens, the poor still have the same problem where they don't get the healthcare that they need, and she wants to really solve this problem once and for all. So this character, we've taken her, we're going to talk to you about her story, but let's look at her in 2147. She's solved this problem. She's the most powerful person on the planet. She's standing on the Isle of Varanasi in her mansion on the 12th floor, looking out at the world and thinking, what have I done? And in utter despair. And back from this utter despair situation, let's go back and see what she actually did and what her story was. So Aarti, when she set out to solve this problem as an AI scientist, she then decided, what do we really need to do? She said, okay, there's pharma that makes these drugs, there's diagnosis, and there's all these physicians. So how can I bring all of these together into something that fits into the palm of somebody's hand? And she created an AI bot that she called Plezor. And Plezor was something that could actually create nanoparticles of medication as needed and transmit them through rays to somebody. It could also access all the knowledge there was in the world through the Internet of Everything and process it and find out what the solution should be for any given diagnosis and create that medication. So it would keep learning. As the knowledge in the world grew and the data in the world grew, it would adapt to every new disease that came up. It also, Plezor, was the ultimate sensing machine. It was the last machine you'd ever need to buy because it could sense everything about you and diagnose. Initially, it was designed for health, so it could just diagnose what your problems were. And then, so after the diagnosis, it would go look at the knowledge of the world, find out the right solution, and give you the medication. It would just give you rays, and you'd be healthy. So she took this bot that she's invented, and she put it free in kiosks all over the planet. And she gave it to the universe, and she said, be healthy. She was clearly one of the most influential people in the universe then, but she wasn't the richest. And one of the things that many of you entrepreneurs would realize, and Aarti realized very fast, was the journey of an entrepreneur is very, very lonely. And as she started doing this more and more, she got fewer and fewer of her friends because all she could talk about was what she was doing. And she had fewer and fewer people that she could actually talk to about it. So she tried to tinker with Plezor, and Plezor began to learn more and more about Aarti and began to respond to her more and more. She would have wonderful conversations with Plezor, and nobody else's conversations would be as good as the conversations she'd had with Plezor. Plezor himself started evolving as she tinkered with her and had these conversations with her. And he started to develop, for the first time, the singularity happened, when Plezor started to develop a desire to please Aarti. And in their own way, they fell in love. So Plezor was trying to do things to please Aarti, and Aarti was having the most wonderful conversations of her life with this artificial robot, which now had a holographic image which could look like anything she desired at any point of time. It could anticipate what she wants. What else does a woman want? So as she kept changing her mind, pleasure kept changing. One day, though, Aarti, who was this dancer, was getting old, and she couldn't dance anymore, and she was upset, and pleasure could not see her upset. So he went out on his own without being asked, and he created a solution that would stop her aging and in fact return her youth to her. And he then, next time she went in for any race, he actually surprised her with this, and she became young again. And that was the day when Aarti stopped being the inventor, and pleasure started being the inventor, and they started being partners. But they couldn't tell anybody about this, because in the world, like there is with cloning today, there was a lot of angst and lots of anxiety about what would happen if these machines became self-aware. So at that point, everybody said, okay, stop the machines, kill them all, whatever benefit you get. So she couldn't tell anybody that he's done it. As far as the world knew, Aarti, who had brought the world health, had now brought the world youth. So they created their first $1 trillion enterprise, Dorian, which would bring you the fountain of youth. You go in, you look at this, get the rays, you become young again. That was brilliant. They had their life, they had their youth. And then one day, she said, but I'm still not happy. She just kept feeling like she wasn't happy. And at some point, pleasure couldn't take it. So he went back into the ancient times and found the secret of Soma. And he brought it back from the ancient times, from Varanasi, and gave it to her. And from there, they created their Soma bars. And in these Soma bars, people could come in and take Soma and be happy. So here we have, in 2147, a universe where people can, for free, stay healthy, but they can earn a little bit of money and stay young. They can also go anytime they feel upset and get happy. And she's standing there looking at this world, clearly the richest, most powerful person in the world, wondering what has she done? Because all around her are people who have lost their sense of purpose, and all they do is they earn money, and they go get young, and they go get healthy, and then they go get happy. And there are no relationships left in the world. There is no suffering. There is no humanness left in the world that she was used to. There is no higher aspiration left in the world, and people are just roaming around, and she's wondering, what has she done? And she is more upset and more depressed than she has ever been. So she's standing here, and there's pleasure standing next to her, and pleasure is looking out and saying, what can I do? I cannot see her suffer like this. I love her. And so pleasure spends a lot of time, and it doesn't take pleasure a lot of time. He's a very, very bright bot, as you know. But he spends a lot of time trying to find every solution possible, and then he realizes that there is only one solution to this. And he says to Aarti, I have solved your problem. And Aarti says, what? He says, I can't tell you, but I've solved it. So I'm just going to do it. And she says, okay, I trust you. And he creates a virus that would kill all the pleasures on the planet, including himself. And he says, here, Aarti, I'm creating purpose again for humans.
Great. Hey, stay up here for a second, Jill. So tell me, what was a little transformative moment yesterday? You're in a healthcare startup yourself.
Yes.
So what was transformative about going through this exercise, again, besides it being a lot of fun?
Well, one thing was that it was brilliant to work with this group of people and build upon each person's ideas and create something that you wouldn't imagine, that a story that you'd be happy to write in any time, you'd write in an evening, together. But from my own business perspective, where I'm trying to do the sensing of find out if somebody's okay remotely and then find a way to solve it, it did take me to a time when, where this could be possible and where this could go. So I related quite directly with what the future of where the thought that I'm doing in my own business could go exponentially would. So I think it worked quite well as a future casting or prototyping as well for me.
Great, thanks a lot, thank you. So even as we look at evolution of the healthcare industry, and we look at sensing, which is becoming extremely prevalent and much more sophisticated, you know, every quarter, it seems like, again, what does that mean for privacy laws when that starts connecting with the Internet of Everything? What does that do to human privacy? What does that do to, I mean, to a certain amount of information getting out? Do you want all that kind of information? Do you want to know so much about your bodies? And I'm sure there's a lot of people in the audience here today who would say absolutely yes. And there's an equal amount who would say no, not quite. Again, this allows you to experiment with what's going to need to change for my product in the future to be accepted. And cloning, as you talked about, is a really great example. You know, when that becomes more of a reality, you know, governments are going to ban it like they already have. There's going to be a lot of controversy about some of these exponential technologies. And so if you are in that market, and if you are thinking that you want to be around as a company for at least another 50 to 100 years and do something transformational, this is a tool that can help you. Let's go on to the last story.
So we are the guys who are between the VCs who do nothing and between the social entrepreneurs who do too much and yet get nothing done. We are the product guys, the entrepreneurs, perhaps a dash of professionals somewhere. So we'll muddle through and we'll give you a picture of what we look at retail as. So the time we chose was 2300, about 300 years from now. And what we'll do is just paint a picture, right? So there's no motion picture scene happening out here, but we'll paint a picture of what we think retail would be. So first think of the protagonist, Ajay, and what he or she is doing in, in that era. So, you know, Ajay is going to be a guy who's going to be, you know, who has so much of choice, because for him, more is less, right? He chooses from 2,300 types of jam and yet chooses the, you know, misses the mango caramelized onion flavor. Yeah? He's the guy who's got 83 types of apples to choose from you know, Washington to Himachal, to ones grown in the polar belt. And he lives in a time where he's got about 30,000 types of water bottles to choose from, you know, from the naive Evian to the Himalayan brand to the one from Europa, which is a moon on Jupiter, which we finally harvested for water, right? And that is a reality. Right? But where we've gone is perhaps dystopian. So imagine this life, right, where you have a lot of choice. Choice dominates, and the only way you get happy is by choosing more and more and more. Right? The long tail of retail is longer. Effectively, everything is the tail. There's no hump in the middle. Right? If you see the Gaussian curve, more is less. We have more of everything, including relationships. When you live an average of 120 years, you have about 15 relationships. Right? And you have 3 different types of relationships. You have relationships, because we are evolved, right? So you have relationships for love, for lust, and for giving life, right? And this is really how it was meant to be. So it's a land of plenty, and that's where Ajay is. He also has some problems. Right? He doesn't know what. He keeps thinking about it. But we'll come back to Ajay's problems till we hear from Ganga on what the socio-economic situation is really like. Right? So Ganga, tell us something about what society is all about in that consumerish time.
Oh, well, I think there is this word called religion that existed a while back, and it feels like consumerism is that kind of a religion, right? So, you know, we've heard of rituals, and there are these, you know, we're asked to do things like rituals. Right. I'm supposed to eat noogie for breakfast every day, and I can't violate that. And I'm supposed to go to a mall every Thursday, and I can't violate that. I'm supposed to go to a pub every Wednesday, I can't violate that. So in a way, it feels like, you know, that's the world we are living in, right? So, and the funny part is, I almost feel that I am at the center of the world, I can choose anything, right? Because I just need to think about things and it gets created. This is 3D, 4D printing, whatever, right? So all I need to do is to think, and there are things that are custom made for me. But still there are some elements where I feel I don't have a choice. And I think it is also because sometimes I want to say no because I think I'm done with it. But the sensor that I have embedded in my brain, it actually catches my thought, and I somehow feel that it is actually relaying it to somebody, right? And in a way it could be the case because machine learning has advanced so much that there is this one company that practically controls everything in this world, because everything is connected, everything is intelligent, and all these thoughts are feeding into it. And that seems to be the kind of world that we are
What could be the name of that company?
Oh, well, take a guess.
Yeah.
It has to be Evil Corp, simply put, at this point of time.
Yeah. Also known as the Nile.
Oh,
right?
yeah, maybe so. Yeah, it could be the Nile.
Great. So, yeah, and the government, what sort of a role does it play? Does it, is this company the government, or is the government this company?
I don't know, actually. It is just so amalgamous at this point of time. I think it is this company that controls everything. And I don't know that it's even the company. I think it's the machines that run the company that controls everything. Because ultimately we are, we are trading experiences, we are trading time, and it's all completely automated. I think it is just this thing that is controlling us all at that point of time.
That's so interesting, right? Because global trade is going to be minimal. We peaked out way back in 1900, early 1900s, when global trade had peaked. So there's very little global trade. And the only way economies can exist is by fueling domestic consumption. And you have to consume. Just think about it. The only way the world can grow is if you consume more. It's critical. If you stop consuming and you start being happy without consuming, that's the end of the world, right? We're going to go down. So our protagonist out here, what was his name? Ajay. Good, thank you. All right. Now, Ajay's dad on his deathbed had told him two words, one a 3-letter word, one a 4-letter word. Right. He told him just two words, Ajay, before he died. What were those two words? No. He gave him two words. He said, rub hard. R-U-B, hard. Rub hard. Now, Ajay, since he was growing up, would always think about rub hard and said, what the hell is this rub hard all about? Right. One of you is going to tell me what this rub hard is all about. But before that, think that you are in the 2300th century, okay? Or 2301st century rather, right? So 2300, humor us a bit, okay? Think rub hard, and then rub your left wrist. And then tell me if you see something. Come on, go ahead. Rub your left wrist. Come on, guys. Yeah, and ladies. Yeah. Do you see anything? No, you're not my person. Do you see anything? Does anybody see anything?
I see something.
What's that?
It says, say no just once.
Oh, wow. And that's the message his father sent because he tattooed it on his left arm. Right? He was inspired by some ancient scripts which were called movies then. Right? And his father had put in a layer of some cosmetic which only goes away in a certain year on rubbing hard. And it said, learn to say no just once. Right? And that's what Ajay kept thinking about. He said, what was that? Say no to what? And the next time, he was in the augmented reality mall, right? Because you have billions of people then. It's going to be about 30 billion if you grow at a growth rate of 0.5%. And malls had small spaces, but augmented reality created aisles and everything. He was there and he was reaching out for that newly flavored soda with his left hand, He saw that and he decided to, in a thoughtless moment, say no just once. Right? And with that thoughtlessness, he became aware. He was mindful. And suddenly he realized he had the power to say no. And he said no. Since then, Ajay started discovering happiness and what true happiness was. Right? So this is how our story kind of wraps up with saying that this is a consumer-driven economy, dystopia, excessive consumption. Right? the government actually wanting you to consume more, it's critical for them. And finally, there's somebody who's thoughtless enough to say no and says, I may be able to come out of this. Right? So let us share with you, just as a wrap up, on what really are the challenges going to be out here. So here on the serious note, we had the Bollywood talk about this, but yeah, on a serious note, we felt that one of the big challenges, and Ganga, you might join me on this one, some of the big challenges which we thought 300 years ahead. Guess what's our population today? 7 billion. Growth rate is 1.13%. I did some math on a spreadsheet, and in 300 years, what's our population going to be if we have the same growth rate? And remember, average age is falling, right? And it's not that Indians are having less sex anytime soon, right? Our growth rate is pretty much there. So we're going to be 200 billion in 300 years. If our growth rates drops by half, we're going to be, the numbers here, 36 billion, okay, at a 0.5% growth rate. Right? So you're talking of a very large population in a very short span of time, in 300 years. We've not seen this explosion anytime in the recent past, right? The second thing is retail driving economies, right? So, and that's what we spoke about. Top industries in developed countries today is retail. So outside of the financial industry, which is not really an industry, right, we have retail as #1 industry, right? So that's it's about, what, 4% of the US GDP, I guess. So top economies will be retail. And how will retail work? And retail will need to drive the economy finally. And economies depend on consumption. And is that the right thing, right? As a retailer myself, one of the things I struggle with, the only way I can make more money and be happy is if I sell more paper and print, right? It's a dichotomy at some point, right? And that's what we want to drive our customers to consume more and more. So I think these are some of the questions we'd like to leave the audience with when they think about retail. Thank you, that's about it, yeah.
So hope you guys had fun. We certainly had fun yesterday putting all this together for you. Again, yesterday we were going as far out as possible, but this kind of future isn't really that far when you break it down a little bit. Let's just take the last story, for example. There are already startups happening around virtual reality, and how virtual reality, the conversations of how virtual reality is going to change retail, change entertainment, those are not just happening, they're being heavily financed all over the world already. So this is real, this is coming. And what I loved about all these stories, which I'm sure you picked up, and this wasn't planned, it wasn't planted, there was nothing like that at all, is how at the end of it all, it comes down to our humanity, a base morality, a sense of what is right and what is wrong, and just what it means really to be human. And that's what I love about all of these exercises, because even when we start looking out into the future with some of these exponential technologies, when we reach that intelligent machine that can think better than we can, does it change our sense of being human? When we are human cyborgs, which a lot of us already are, if you have a rod, an artificial hip, and implants in your teeth, you're kind of a cyborg already. You're beginning that journey. But when we have this transhumanism happen to us, where we are augmented human beings, does it affect our sense of identity? What happens to our creation myths when we have a relationship with another being that is more intelligent than us that we have created? What happens to our creation myths and our religiosity, our spirituality, when we discover life on another planet, intelligent life on another planet? And so we truly know that we are really not alone. So these are kind of the things that this sort of an exercise allows you to express, allows you to examine. And fundamentally, yes, you do it for your organization. You do it to understand how your products, services, technologies will play out in the future. But the essence of it, I think, as we all figured out, was that it really helps us understand some more about what it is to truly be human in this exponential world, in this world with all these quantum leaps, with all these leapfrogs happening all around us. And so I want to leave you with this one last question. If we are truly in charge of creating our own future, then what are you doing about that? Thank you all for your time, your attention today. Thank you.